Mr Dutton, you mentioned the comments from Senator Wong earlier. Would you confirm to oppose any attempt to legislate a voice in the future or anything similar to it? Could I also just ask you about Josh Frydenberg, who said overnight, never say never for a return to politics? Would he be a welcome addition to your team?
I hope Josh does come back one day, and I've encouraged him to do so. Obviously, he's not running at this election, so it's a debate for 3 years down the track. But look, I think we've got a lot at stake at this election, and I think Australians have a choice before them, and I think there is a very obvious choice about whether you want 3 more years of the same with rising costs or whether you elect a coalition government. If you do that, petrol prices come down by 25 cents a litre, $1,200 tax rebate, and you provide the opportunity to young people again to own a home. I think that's what this is about.
Just on that voice issue, would you oppose any attempt to legislate?
We've been clear in relation to the voice that we don't support the voice. I think the Prime Minister should have heard the voice of the Australian public when they voted no in the referendum. Clearly they haven't. Now, it would be one of the first items of business for a Labor Greens government to introduce legislation, to put in place the voice and treaty and truth-telling, etc. This is why the Prime Minister tied himself in knots in relation to this issue the other night in the debate. It's obvious that the Prime Minister shares the view of Penny Wong. He just is not as honest as Penny Wong. And Australians should know that if you vote for Anthony Albanese, he hasn't listened the first time around in relation to your decision on the voice referendum. Send him a message at this election that, no, we're not going to support the voice legislated by Labor and the Greens and treaty and truth-telling, because we said, we expressed our view very clearly. I think that's like Australians would be scratching their heads saying, I thought the Prime Minister had heard that we said no. And now it turns out Labor's thinking about legislating it, and it would be first order of business, as I say, between a Labor Greens government. So Australians should send the Prime Minister a message that they don't want the voice in any form, and the Prime Minister needs to start being honest with the Australian public about Labor's secret plan in relation to the voice.
Mr Dutton, could I follow Sarah's earlier question? On the first day of the campaign in your electorate at a morning tea, you said to a large crowd, if there's a position where we need to negotiate with the independents, we can do that to form minority government. You've spoken a lot about minority government for Labor. You haven't spoken a lot about what you would do in a minority government situation. Would you rule out making a deal with Pauline Hanson's One Nation or the Trumpet of Patriots Party?
Look, the only independents who are in prospect in the lower house are those that are already there, or some in-till seats or green seats.
What about in the upper house?
There's nothing in the lower house to form government, was your question. So there's no negotiation in relation to that at all.